Well, there's a lot of stuff coming out about Venezuela and the arrest of Maduro, the dictator, and the the newest headline now is that there was a strong possibility, pretty much confirmed, but it hasn't been just they didn't say yes we did it, but Caroline Levitt actually released the transcript about this stuff though. But direct energy weapon was allegedly used to be able to gain control of the situation very rapidly after people were or soldiers were deployed to that area. Very interesting stuff because I'm all about this. The reason why I'm all about it is because the attack on on everything is at the forefront of technology. We're part of that right now as we speak. I'm using technology and doing my best to not become a victim of it at the same time. Very fine line I balance here. But, direct energy weapons have been out for many, many, many years. You've even seen congressional hearings about these things.
Secretary, can I ask you a question about some of the technology that you're developing to fight the war on terror, specifically directed energy and high-powered microwave technology? When do you envision that you can weaponize that type of technology?
Goodness. It is in, for the most part, the kinds of things you're talking about are in varying early stages. Do you have anything you'd add?
I don't think I would add much. I think they are in early stages and probably not ready for employment at this point.
In the normal order of things, when you invest in research and development and begin a developmental project, you don't have any intention or expectations that one would use it. On the other hand, the real world intervenes from time to time, and you reach in there and take something out that is still in a developmental stage, and you might use it. So your question's not answerable. It depends on what happens in the future and how well things move along the track and whether or not someone feels it's appropriate to reach into a development stage and see if something might be useful, as was the case with the unmanned aerial vehicles.
So that was a long time ago. Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense, do the math on that, how many years ago that was. Now, you may remember this one. This is a little more of my timeline. This congressional hearing right here as well.
Your assessments here are correct. These are very covert weapons, aren't they? They don't leave behind bomb fragments, bullet holes, etc. They could absolutely be used by our adversaries and have very low levels of, very easy to deny that they were even there, that they were used. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's no entry or exit wound. How they're designed is to make the target feel like they're crazy, like they're imagining things, especially on the low duration, the low intensity, long duration hits.
But you were saying that the targets are most often always either CIA, FBI, intelligence, law enforcement individuals. Is that correct?
No, I said diplomats, intelligence community, and Department of Defense make up the lion's share.
Kamala Harris, she caught the
You often
Havana
don't hear
syndrome.
about the Department of Defense, despite DOD having 5 or 10 times the number of survivors that Department of State has.
Thank you for that correction, sir. And you guys also said that these attacks are happening right here in this city. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Can you expound on that a little bit more?
I mean, there have been some that have gone public with respect to Washington, D.C. The particularly credible ones, and I'm not saying that those are not credible, but the ones that have received the most attention on the inside of the intelligence community are in Northern Virginia, and they are particularly of CIA personnel.
I think it was Mr. Grozev said you spoke to a Russian agent who said that they believe that Americans are using these same weapons on them. Is that correct?
That is correct, back in the 80s.
Might that have something to do with part of the CIA's motive to cover up the existence of this tech and these weapons?
That is a very logical possibility.
Thank you.
A recent encounter, Kamala Harris. I think she goes down to Cuba for some kind of thing, and she had to go to the hospital immediately after that on her way back to do so, because she had, the indications of a possible direct energy weapon that was used on her. And it didn't help anything. It messed her up, I think, a little worse. But, there's reports from people on the ground from Venezuela that, gave testimony saying, dude, yeah, there was, it sounded like the way these people were when these 20 people had arrived on these little, very few helicopters, it was like they were firing off up to 300 rounds per minute. And, they described conditions of being physically ill, vomiting, bleeding out of the mouth and nose, or ears and nose. And, it'd be hard to discern what they are actually hearing because, like you just heard earlier, that some of these direct energy weapons can be able to make you, think and think you're hearing stuff. The technology is very, very, very intricate, and it's been perfected even to this day. They're still working on them right now. And these are just weapons that are being used in a microwave form, or sound wave forms, electromagnetic pulse waves. I have a little bit of a diagram of this is very old technology. So for it to be even remotely used now, I mean, there's no doubt. So let me show to you what I found on this real quick. It says U.S. used powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees during the Maduro raid, witnesses account. And right here, the U.S. is using some of the most powerful mystery weapons that brought the Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, bleeding through the nose and vomiting blood during the daring raid to capture dictator Nicolas Maduro. Let's see here. Let me show you this. This is a little bit of... let me see if I can get this right here. Here we go. It's got little diagrams. By the way, these are old, but... I can kind of zoom in, but it just shows parts of the area where you can be affected. And a lot of times you're really susceptible around your adenoids, and adenoids are all through your bodies. You have them in your neck, you have them in your armpits, near your genitalia, in certain parts of your face. And, those are also the your thyroid as well. And, these are areas that are really susceptible to any kind of radiation as well. And so they learn to target these areas too because they control hormones, and the hormones control emotion and brain function. And, like I said, this is all old stuff. I mean, I'm not showing you anything new.
Of a weapon with no visible trace. A weapon that could knock out tanks, ships, and planes as fast as the speed of light. The same technology with modifications could disorient and even tranquilize military personnel, rendering them virtually helpless in the battle zone. These are the new weapons of war we will examine in this series.
Yeah, I mean, that just goes on. And basically, you had, but back in 2013, you had Peter Ducey.
At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it, he said. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. The Pentagon is not yet saying exactly what weapon was used, but it sounds a lot like something this reporter got hit with at Quantico in this piece from 2013.
The military says the active denial system is not radioactive, it's not a microwave, and it's not a laser beam. It's instead a man-sized beam of millimeter waves that can be fired from up to 1,000 meters away that are designed to get the subject, whoever's standing on this X, really, really hot so that they move. And it's about 50 degrees out here right now, but I just felt like it was about 1,000. And I've never been inside a tub that somebody dropped a hairdryer in, but I would imagine that that's what it feels like.
That's some remarkable technology. And, it's been around for a long time, and you may or may not know about this, but one thing that's really significant in this day and age is its ability to be minimized in its size, but still be very effective. Used to that these kind of devices would kind of like were big, bulky, and clunky. And so it took a lot of power which still power, that's the thing, but we've come a long way to be able to store energy with lithium batteries and different things like that. So a lot of this technology now, it's not as detectable by the untrained eye like it used to be. And then we could go into the rabbit holes of 5G technology when it comes to the cell phone towers that are currently being, built up with really, 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 really large coaxials that would, why would you need, if you're only supposed to produce a certain amount of power, why are these coaxial cables, the wire that's used to feed the antennas, the transducers, I guess you would call it, that kind of power is kind of strange. There's a lot of questions to be asked about the actual intent when it comes to some of these frequencies that are able to be transmitted on a mass scale. It would be in the deep state or the elites or the globalist best interest to have this technology on the flip switch when it's necessary. And you heard in one of the earlier testimonies or congressional hearings that was given, or press conference, however you want, that they have the ability to run these direct energy weapons at very low intensity and can do these for long periods of time, which then can create or imitate mental illness, like make somebody feel like there's something wrong with them, probably onset depression, or make them lethargic, or even possibly unaliving themselves. There's a lot of layers to be able to unpack when it comes to these direct energy weapons. Now, did they do this in Venezuela? Well, it's looking like there was some form of that happening. It had to have been, and but we won't know for sure until they actually confirm this kind of stuff. But however, there are people on the inside who do know this to be a fact, one way or another, and I can assure you that would be why you're starting to see some of the cowtailing or the turning of, you had Cuba talking all this big smack about, come get me, and you had, other countries, Mexico and all these, now they're kind of not saying so much. And that may be an indicator that there's a possibility that, they know more about they've been given the what do you call it, the briefing, the military briefing. They said, look here, we ain't releasing this to media yet, but let me show you what we did and what's going to happen to you guys. And they're like, oh shit. Now, you did hear Trump also say that, hey, we've got really good laser technology now. This was public. He did this just a few weeks ago, and went on to a press conference and said, we've got excellent, lasers that can vaporize a target. It costs nothing to do it now. Saves us a ton of money. And I've been saying this for a long time, and we could talk about Hawaii, what happened there, and other places. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene brought to the table, hey, something's going on in California with all these wildfires, and these lasers that are placed in, you would imagine outer space, but they could be on an aircraft. We've got images of military aircraft that you can find easily. Do your own research, and you'll see that they've got the ability, these big, huge lenses that mount to these aircraft that can just take regular sunlight and just use what's already out there around it, and then make this into a really nice tight beam. Think about this. What do you think an ant was thinking as a child when you're a child taking a magnifying glass and cooking ants? That's well, there you have it. I mean, so are we now able to accept the fact of what's really going on now? The only thing that was really of pertinence is, where do they draw the line? Do we do these on just military operations for, other countries when we need to do what we got to do? Or will we just start deploying these weapons on the American people? Remember, we don't have to be feeling like we're being hit with something. It could be just something as simple as flipping it on real low, just kind of turning and just slowly boiling the frog, I guess you would call it, where you just keep cranking the volume knob on the director. Now, while I'm talking about that, Travis Scott, that rapper, you can look back, 2023, there was a situation that occurred where a bunch of people, they say that it was some kind of carcinogenic hypodermic needle being administered to crowd goers without their knowledge by some individual that caused these people to have these problems. But Kanye West, call him crazy, has touched on a lot of subjects that a lot of people wouldn't talk about, which have actually come true. Let me show you this real quick, and I'm going to also show you what he was talking about at this Travis Scott concert and the people that it affected and all the weird behaviors that occurred during and after the concert. Whenever these people were being injured, they were trying to send in rescue crew to get these people out, and people were acting like they had never, they were like just complete and total animals. Watch this.
The 808 exists in the lowest chakra of your body. The majority of content that's related to the 808 is killer or sexual content. The original 808s was even off pitch. So that meant it's an actual sound in the track that you don't realize is there that is fucking up your entire frequency. And now, today, every time I hear a car come out, it's 808. But if you think about African music and hip hop and what we was breakdancing to, it was light.
The percussion.
It was upbeat. It was the drums. Now it's like, and all of this is.
So we had crowd goers that had arrived early at this rapper Travis Scott. And you may or may not know who this guy is, but you could look into the history in this concert that took place where a lot of people were injured and some people were unalived. And there were dedicated fans that got there really early because they wanted to get good seats. And so, and plus people party while they're there. And during sound check, they were playing some very strange sounds on repetition. And you got to remember too, there's also sub-audible tones that we can't hear. We're not even, you can project a frequency and you won't hear it, but your body feels it, your mind hears it, your brain hears it, but you don't hear it with your ear. And, a lot of things happen there. And it says a lot of y'all were asking about the music they were playing 7 hours 7 hours before this was. It says was nauseating to listen to this over and over again, and honestly scary now that I think about it, because some of these people aren't alive anymore that you see in these posts right here that were early. They got there really early, and something happened to them in the concert. And you've got images of people playing with frequency. I don't know if this is real or not here. I don't know what that is. So, I just found that. But that was some of the people that were attending the Travis Scott concert that were harmed after all that. Like I said earlier, this was a way for our military to flex their muscles, Trump to show superiority and our military capability, even though we've got a bunch of the military people have changed a lot. Some of these people, get rid of the Trunies now. Get some real people in there. Get rid of the woke generals and all these people that are screwing up. And like I say, one thing we've got to watch out for is, will they deploy these weapons on us? Have they, or are they, or currently? That's the question. And so anyways, thank you guys for watching, but I wanted to touch base with you. And in my opinion, I think that they did this, just given the testimony from what I've read of people saying what happened in Venezuela and the ability for such a small military, even though, like I say, these people had primitive weaponry, it was like they just came in there, and it's military maneuvers that I haven't. It's very impressive. Very impressive. I'll leave it at that. Y'all guys have a wonderful day. Take it easy, and I'm out.